Hello, everybody. Welcome back to J Book Reviews. Now, as you can already tell, I'm in a different room, and the reason why is because I just didn't like the other room in there, so I decided to move in here. And to tell you the truth, it's a lot more better in here because this room is sort of soundproof, so I don't have to deal with any people coming in here, barging and yelling and all that stuff. So, anyways, so the book I'm going to review today is Peter Straub's well-known horror novel to date, and that is Ghost Story. Now, before I get into depth in this, let me tell you how getting this book was such a like a bitch to get it. So I don't own this book. I recently went to my local library, but guess what? They didn't have it, so I asked the librarian if you can fetch it for me, and the person said, "Yeah, no problem." So I waited for a week because it usually comes on Mondays and Wednesdays for deliveries over there at the library. So I go there on Monday or I call them and nothing. So I wait. So I went down to the library just to get a book, just to wait patiently for it. And the book I read was Heart Shaped Box by Joe Hill, which is Stephen King's son. Now I read that book, I finished it, and I also did a video on it, but I never published it. And the reason why is because I just didn't like the video. I just hated what I said in it because I'm gonna probably like take back some things I said in the video because there are some things I regret saying in it. So it's already finished, but it's probably not gonna be published. Maybe, I don't know, but we'll see. So after finishing that, I waited another week, and again nothing. So again, I was getting kind of like impatient with it. But then on April 1st, finally I got it. And I read it I finished it until yesterday. It took me April 1st to April 20th, so it took me 20 days to finish. So, let's just talk about the story and I'll give my thoughts. And, yeah. So, the premise of the story takes place in Millburn, New York, where we focus on these four older individuals who call themselves the Child Society. And the reason why they call themselves that because every night they like to tell scary stories to themselves one by one. Well, one of them tells the story, and then the next night they tell the story, and that's it. And the reasons why they tell the story because back in the 1920s or 30s, something occurred to them back then in their past, a very well past that they got away with from murder or something like that, and they've been doing this little child society for about 30 years, or probably 40 or 30 years. And however, while they were telling each other stories, or this one person, one of the people who were telling the story, uh, they automatically bring it up about how they've been having nightmares. And they responded like, "Oh, you've been having nightmares too? Because guess what? I've been having nightmares too, and it's the same dream." And they've been having nightmares for a whole year. It's because they used to had another member with them, and the member died from a party a year ago, and they don't know how. So what they want to do is they want to write a letter to one of the member's nephews, which his name is Dawn, who is a writer who writes scary stories, just so that they can discuss about it. When Dawn gets a letter, he does go over, and when that happens, strange things happen to the Child Society and Dawn, and also the town Millburn itself. And that's pretty much what I could say because when it happens, it gets really good. And so yeah, that's pretty much the story. Um, what are my thoughts about this book? I thought this book was incredibly good. Um, I mostly went online and asked and wanted to look for what is a great scary novel to read, and this is the one I keep seeing on websites, and I could see why people enjoyed this book. Um, I really did enjoy it. I enjoy the characters in this book. I enjoyed the story. I love the town of Millburn. I still wish it could have been discussed a little more, but that's pretty much it. but I do have one little negative for this book, and that is, and I've seen on reviews on Amazon, I've seen it on Goodreads, and that is the pacing in this book. Oh my god, this pacing in this book is like a chore. And that's the thing about this book. It's like a chore to go through, but for some reason, even though I didn't want to read at times, the book lingers me to come back and just pick it up and read it because it was interesting. And and that's why if you like a book that is interesting, even though if it's a chore, you can tell it's still interesting. There's a lot of dialogue in this book, and if you don't like that, then I understand because sometimes people just want to get into the action. They want to discuss the scary thing, but yeah, they do discuss the scary thing, but it's done so well. At times the pacing can be good, and the pacing could be just like it just didn't need to be in it. There are times it's going to be like that, but it's just done so well, and I appreciated that. And the other thing I like about this book was how the supernatural thing. Now, I'm not going to say what the supernatural thing is, but it's a great twist. There's a great twist of what it is. Like, see, even I don't want to spoil it because I don't want to tell you what it is because it is a great out of nowhere. This book kind of reminds me of two novels from Stephen King. One mostly in particular is Stephen King's Salem's Lot, which I'll probably do a review maybe soon. But in Salem's Lot, it's mostly about this town, this little town that gets invaded by a vampire and turns the whole town to vampires. And it reminds me of that so much. And we do focus. It's not only we just focus on the four older gentlemen and also Dawn itself. We also focus on other characters as well, like in the town itself. And I love the seasons in this book because it takes place in October to January or to December, because most of the time you just see it like in the beginning it starts like in October, Halloween weather, and then towards almost the middle it gets to like a very snowy, very cold, and I do recommend for that because if it's right now it's like spring right now, but if it was like snowing like crazy, I would definitely read this book if you're in like your little house and if it was like snowing cold, you can just like read it because this book was just such a great book to read that I do enjoy it. Now, as I said before, as I was waiting for this book, I read Heart Shaped Box and I don't have the book right now because I got it from the library. Now, compare to that to Heart Shaped Box, it's like one it's like here you have a good book with a good supernatural element and good scary moments, but but the only problem is that you have pacing issues, and that's pretty much it. And it's like, okay, yeah, it's long. It's about like 483 pages long, and then you have Heart Shaped Box, which is like 375 pages or 76. But the only problem in that book is that its main character, the main character in Heart Shaped Box, is like he's so despicable. He's such an asshole that's the reason why I didn't seem to enjoy the book as much as I did in this one. It's like, hey, yeah, I got a good story. Like Heart Shaped Box has a good story, a good scary atmosphere, but its main character sucks. He has this emotional, like whenever something happens to him, it's like ah shit, here we go again. Like it's just a typical day in his life. Well, in this, the characters are well done, but it's just the pacing is just it drags. So, which one you rather have? A very modern, a very scary ghost, a very scary atmosphere ghost that comes after you, but with a shitty main character, or great characters, a scary story, and a great small town, but with dragging issues, with slow pace issues. So where do I rather go? I'd rather go with this book because this book is a lot better than Heart Shaped Box, in my opinion. So yeah, that's pretty much it. So what do I think about Ghost Story? Well, this is probably the best Peter Straub book I probably ever read. I already have another book of his, and that is like The Talisman by Stephen King, because this is the one book Stephen King gave credit. Now, this is the Stephen King Horror Library book cover edition. Now, while I was going through the book, I also had an introduction with Stephen King, which I'm glad I never read. I didn't finish it because he does spoil, and I do warn, because I'm pretty much going to give you guys a recommendation for this book. I'll probably link in the Amazon, eBay discussion if you guys want to look for the book. But the hardcover is kind of hard to get because it's very expensive. But you can find a used one. Hopefully you can find a used one, or just get the paperback. But if it includes the Stephen King introduction, I do not, and I repeat, I advise you not to read it because it will spoil what's going to be in it. But back to the topic. Stephen King thought this book was so well that he calls it one of the best horror books in the 70s. And I could see why. And he asked Peter Straub if he can work on a novel with him. And they did, and it became a success. Now, I know that Peter Straub is not like a... I know he made other books in the past. I know he's still making books, but I do know that he is a little too vague for my taste. I know a lot of people did say that some of his novels are not that great. Now, I heard Shadowland's good. I know The Talisman's good, and I know, what is it, Black House, and, I don't know what else, but I know those stories are good, and even this one, because everyone says this is his well-crafted masterpiece, which it is, in my opinion. It's a well-done book, and I will probably recommend it, but his other books are vague. So, anyways, what do I give the rating for this book? Well, the rating is gonna get a 4 out of 5. This is a well done. It is a great book. It just has it has pacing issues. I do recommend it. It's a great book. I did enjoy this one. Well, that's going to do it for today, guys. Feel free to hit the subscribe button and hit a like if you want. And until then, I'll see you guys until the next book review, which it may be... I'm probably going to take a break at this point because I got important stuff to do. So I might come back around maybe in the summertime. But yeah, until then, I'll see you guys on the next book review. See ya.